This is Catwoman issue 9, the Night Owls tie-in. So, for Catwoman, I'm starting with some highlights that I would like to go over, which are the themes: fate, damaged people, and how are monsters made. So, we begin with the Talon who was fighting in the 1600s, and his name is Ephraim Newhouse. And the whole thing is Ephraim was a Talon, and he was fighting against a man whom he gives a dagger to because he's all about honor, and he fights the guy, and the guy runs away. And around that time, which is the fact that Gotham City was in the Americas, in the United States, colonial times, and the British were there, so he fights against the British, who intervened in the fighting, and he loses a few of his daggers, in which the Court of the Owls, they don't like that because he's left too much evidence of the fact that the Court of Owls exist. So his daggers have been confiscated by the British men, and the Court of the Owls, they want to punish him by stripping him and retiring him, which means that they're going to freeze him for life, and he can't awaken until they call upon him again. But the thing is about this is that they tell him that you're going to be punished, you're going to be stripped naked, you're not going to wear anything when you go into your retirement. And he's an honorable guy, so he feels totally bad about what had happened. And Catwoman, from the previous issue, in issue 8 and 7, she's trying to steal daggers from the Penguin with her sidekick. I can't call him a sidekick, I think he's a love interest right now, Spark. And Spark, they're sitting up there, and Catwoman kind of tells him, don't jinx us about the weather, don't jinx about anything, we want to get the daggers and get out. So she really believes in, a bit about fate, and she does say, don't ever mess with fate. I don't believe in fate, but don't mess with them, because they're not a force to be reckoned with. And Ephraim, the Talon, is resurrected. The Court of the Owls tell him, if you want to get your honor back, you have to go and get Penguin and eliminate him, because Penguin is part of, the elite of scum, and he's part of the noble elite based upon name, because his last name is Cobblepot. That's a giveaway. He's part of the elite. And Ephraim goes out to get the Penguin. And the Penguin's there, and he's sitting there talking about business and so on and forth, and then the Talon, Ephraim, goes through, and he busts through, and he beats up Penguin's, guards and everything. And Catwoman and Spark are sitting up top watching the whole thing, and the Penguin's outnumbered, and the Talon has him pretty much by his throat, telling him, asking him, why do you have one of my daggers? Penguin has one of the owl daggers, and Catwoman wants the rest of them because they're more profitable that way. If you read issue 8 and 7, you would know that. You would know part of that story. And he's telling him, why do you have my daggers? And Penguin's trying to bribe with him, like, look, I'll give it to you, just spare my life. And, the Talon is very honorable. He doesn't care about that. But he's very pissed off because those are his daggers, and that's one of the reasons why he was so dishonored. So him getting it back would be great. Catwoman watches from the top, and Spark's telling her, like, yeah, let's go, because, there's nothing we could do. And Catwoman's kind of just sitting there like, yeah, we should go. Yeah. It's not a fair fight. I'm going to go in there. And she's such an anti-hero where she does her own thing, but she says in her voiceover that it's an unfair fight, and even she knows when to come in to save somebody and when not to. And it just shows how sympathetic and, empathetic she is towards the whole situation. Even as a villain, which many people don't call her a villain, she's an anti-hero, she still has compassion in her heart to do stuff, but she's the kind of person who's very unpredictable, so you don't take her as a grain of salt. If she helps you, that's great. If she doesn't, you're in trouble. So she goes in, busts through the window, and she's attacking the Talon, and she realizes that he is super strong, and she basically has to fight him. And Spark comes in to help her too, but also realizes he's not going to go down without a fight. And the Talon takes a knife out of his throat. I think Catwoman throws it at him of some sort. And she's still fighting him. And she realizes in his eyes, after seeing him with the dagger, his own dagger that the Penguin has, she realizes that he's a broken guy, that he's been dishonored and he's been abused by people. and she can relate to that because she herself has been abused. So she's a damaged person, so is he. So she tells him, look, I have the other 4 daggers. I can give them to you. I know they belong to you. You could take this one and keep all 5 of them back. And the Talon, Ephraim, kind of looks at her like, you do? And he looks so hopeful. She's very sympathetic to him and very empathetic to him. And, he's choking Spark at the same time, so she's trying to negotiate with him to stop choking Spark. And then the Penguin, as always, comes in with his umbrella and shoots the Talon in the head. Which for me is like, if you shoot or try to kill the Talon without freezing them, it's not going to work. They're always going to regenerate. But apparently this Talon goes down with one swift bullet to the head, and that's it. So, and Catwoman, being the sympathetic person she is, she leaves him with the daggers that he has, and she leaves him on top of the Gotham City Police Department in front of the Bat Signal, kind of inferencing that she didn't do it for Batman, but she knows that he's going to take care of the situation, or the police will. So she has a bit of heroism in her, but she's still an anti-hero, still a villain, of course. And she realized, she kind of just says out loud, monsters aren't made. Monsters aren't born this way. They're made. So, she even says, even someone like me, I wasn't born this way. I was made to be who I am. And that is so, I guess for me, that's important, because it shows that if she wasn't in the predicament she was ever in to become Catwoman, she would have been a decent, well-rounded woman. And, she knows her mistakes, and she knows how good she could be, how good she can be, and how bad she can be. And that's great, because heroes like that, I like to see them as being flawed and damaged. That's why I love Batman myself. He's a flawed character, and so is she. So, the whole idea of fate and damaged people and monsters, it's kind of like I wasn't born to be a villain or a hero. I was made to be this way by circumstance, by experiences, and it's not really my fault, but that's just how fate plays with you, destiny plays with you. And this kind of ties into the Night of Owls, where they believe, it's kind of tied into fate and destiny, and the fact that they have control, but really they don't. The core of the Owls don't have control of anything. It's really up to the person. This is from my opinion. Of course, you can have a different opinion about it. So overall, I think the graphics were nice in this. They take liberties of showing Catwoman's breasts, of course. I'm not offended by it at all. I think she's a great, wonderful, sexy character that almost any girl would want to be if they would want to be Catwoman as an anti-hero. If you're a goody two-shoe girl, maybe Batwoman or Batgirl would be your choosing. But Catwoman's a villain. They're going to show her cleavage. They're going to show, her body the way they want to, and I think they can have liberties doing that because she's a villain. Villains tend to do things that heroes can't, such as a bit of sexuality. So that's my belief. So if I had to give Catwoman a number, I would say it was a decent comic. The storyline was nice, and I do love Catwoman, but I would like to give her maybe a 8.9. Probably because of the fact that she hasn't, the story hasn't, well, her entire series hasn't really been picking up as of much, and I think this one is probably one of the few, if not one of the few, that actually makes sense for her and for her character. So comment below or on DKN Facebook and tell us about what you think about Catwoman, the whole series. Do you like it? Have you been liking it? Do you think it's too sexy, or Judd Winwick, the writer, has taken too much liberties with how she is and her character and how sexy she should be? What are your thoughts about the whole issue? Do you see Catwoman as an anti-hero? Do you love her? Do you hate her? Really, we'd love to hear your comments down below, and this review is great for all of you to talk about what you think about the whole comic and the issues. So, have a great time, and thanks.